And we are live, ladies and gentlemen. We are live. Welcome to Benchley Night. It has been a while. I've just been very busy. And then when I came back after having been at a residency at the Tides Institute in Eastport, Maine, and I just was like, are people sick of hearing Robert Benchley? And maybe they are. But, I did have a couple of people ask if they were going to start up again. And I thought, why not? But I'm going to do it slightly differently going forward. Slightly differently, ladies and gentlemen. There will be a Robert Benchley. And then there will also be other readings that I find interesting. Jim Frisk says, hello from St. Albans, Vermont, where the leaves are changing, but not as much as in the Groton State Forest, where he just returned from camping. Artist says, good evening, Charlie, and good evening, Artist. Martha Rowley, are you out there? I hope so. The porch drop received. So we're going to start out with the Robert Benchley, and then we're going to have the second reading. And we're doing kind of Martha's there. Hi, Martha. Hi, Terry Hudson. Then we're going to have the second reading. Now there is a common theme. It's a nature theme. It's a nature theme tonight. So we're going to start with Nature's Prizes by Robert Benchley. And some Frenchman has said, translating on sight into English as he went, each one to his taste, but with all the things there are to go out after in this world, I think that Dr. Ditmars is going out after the least attractive. At least they would be to me. Dr. Ditmars, head of the Bronx Zoo, is going on an expedition to the Caribbean Sea. And believe it or not, he is hoping and praying that he comes back with the following treasures. One Suriname toad, which, according to Dr. Ditmars, quote, looks as if an elephant has stepped on it and has small beady eyes like pinpoints, end quote. That is all right, I suppose, so long as Dr. Ditmars thinks he wants it. One giant horned frog, which attains a length of more than 10 inches, quote, it is bright green, has long yellow horns, barks like a dog, and can inflict a very severe bite. It is apt to jump at you and bite you with no warning whatsoever. Not at me, Dr. Ditmars, not at me. He could not jump that far. One tropical spider, or Grammostola longimanaka, which is 3 times as large as the common tarantula. In addition to being very active, this spider is also very poisonous, and its bite may have a fatal result. One tree frog of the harlequin family, highly colored, quote, their skins exude a poison, which is used by Indians in northeastern South America to tip their arrows. The venom is said to be as deadly as strychnine if it enters the bloodstream and is fatal within 10 minutes, end quote. Now, Dr. Ditmars' aim is not to keep as far away from these pets as possible, but actually to go out and get them. He wants to bring them back to the Bronx Zoo, although so far no residents of the Bronx have issued statements regarding the matter. It looks like a good year for house screen. It looks like a good year for house screens in the Bronx. The only one of Dr. Ditmars' quarries which could hold my attention at all is the Suriname toad, which looks as if an elephant has stepped on it. I'd rather like to look at that and then look right away again. The Suriname toad also has quite a cute trick in disposing of its eggs. All this is, of course, according to Dr. Ditmars. It comes like a bolt out of the blue to me. The female lays the eggs in the water, each egg floating by itself. The male then takes them one by one in his flipper and embeds them into the back of the female, where a retaining membrane immediately forms. The young frogs remain on this refuge until they can take care of themselves. More than 200 eggs have been found on the back of a single female. Well, as that Frenchman said, each one to his taste. I could not go for that sort of thing myself, but then I couldn't go for any of the other of Dr. Dittmar's hobbies. All right, that is our Robert Benchley. Now, continuing the theme of nature, I'm going to be reading from The Ghost Lab, a new book by Matthew Hongoltz-Hetling. Now, Matthew Hongoltz-Hetling was a reporter for the Valley News up in Lebanon, Hanover, Lebanon, White River Junction area. And while he was a reporter for the Valley News, he started covering the town of Grafton, New Hampshire, which resulted in the book, A Libertarian Walks into a Bear. By that title alone, you know you're going to like Matthew Hongoltz-Hetling's writing. What happened in Grafton, New Hampshire was it was a town that had forever been adverse to paying taxes. So it was very rural, very undeveloped, very backwoodsy. The Free Stater libertarians, who believed that they could take over a town, a state, and therefore come to prominence, a bunch of them moved to Grafton, New Hampshire at the exact same time that the bear population spiked. Because there was no longer any functioning government in Grafton, New Hampshire, some people were throwing dynamite at the bears. Some people were feeding the bears. Some people were shooting at the bears. And the bears developed a lot of intelligence about how to deal with humans. It is a wonderful book. And it is, I think it was kind of a minor hit, it wasn't a bestseller, but it came out in a trade paperback and everything. Now, Matthew Hongoltz-Hetling's second book is called If It Sounds Like a Quack. And I was unaware this book had come out until this summer when I just happened to check and see if he had any more books. And indeed he did. If It Sounds Like a Quack is, to me, an extraordinary book. It came out in 2023, and it follows the life paths of like 6 people who believe that they have discovered the one true cure. So quack science. And it makes some very, very interesting conclusions and draws parallels between a lot of things that are going on in the country right now, including it came out before we had a health secretary with a dead worm in his brain, but you can follow the through line. Anyway, it's a great book, and I highly recommend it. The Ghost Lab, his most recent book, came out this summer. I am only partway through it. It is about, on the New Hampshire seacoast, a group of paranormal researchers. And the subtitle of the book is How Bigfoot Hunters, Mediums, and Alien Enthusiasts Are Wrecking Science. So Matthew Hongoltz-Hetling's worldview is one of science and rationality. And he is very interested as to why it isn't doing so well right now. Part of it, as he avers in If It Sounds Like a Quack, is that the kind of institutional elitism of the AMA and the CDC and stuff. And part of it also is, well, I think he believes we're entering a new dark age. So it's not the most cheerful reading. It is very funny, though. And so it lulls you into a humorous, it's contemporary nonfiction, and it's funny, and then it starts dealing with very, very serious issues. In the new book, one of the things he says is that people, for years, it has been, for the last couple of centuries, it's been a fight between science and religion. And then now, pseudoscience has kind of come to the fore and is sort of eating everybody's lunch. And I think he is developing the thesis that pseudoscience speaks in poetry much more. It evokes response from us. It is whatever we want to make of it, whereas science has been so dry. He has a passage in here where the lead-in is, narratives about death are just another example of this problem. Scientists have had stacks of facts about what happens to our post-existence life force. If science's narrative of evolution fails to satisfy our need for greater meaning, then its three-word summary about death, we are gone, is even more deficient. If they could disseminate their multi-layered narrative about the cycle of life and death in a different way, perhaps it could bring us all comfort without compromising the existing evidence. Buckle up, ladies and gentlemen, buckle up. Science's story of death begins with the idea of energy raining down like manna from our celestial sun and giving us life. We can extract star-blessed energy from our food only because we host a host of bacteria, viruses, and fungi that protect us from harm. When we nurture a harmonious relationship with this literal multitude within us, we're repaid by humble microscopic workers, tiny planet-shaped I'm going to murder these scientific names, so just bear with me. Equilifaciens. It toils, sucking soy into surface craters and expelling an isoflavone that reduces the risk of cancer and diabetes. O formigensis looks like a mossy hot dog as it chips faithfully away at plant compounds that would otherwise give us painful kidney stones. And slipper-shaped A. muciniphilia grazes on mucus, promoting a thickening of the stomach lining that helps to reduce obesity. Collectively, they contain hundreds of trillions of copies of DNA, which means our body is coursing with a blueprint for life that outnumbers our own by a factor of 100. As living conscious beings, most of us are takers, consuming huge amounts of natural resources to support ridiculously luxurious material lives. But when a person's lungs or heart cease to work, it is time for death. And death is a time for giving. Our cells submit themselves to those tiny creatures over which we once held dominion. We trigger a chemical breakdown of our cell walls, and accumulating fluids flow downward like tiny, nourishing rivers. The residents of our gut biome eat energy-laden sugars, pushing into tissues and organs. The last part of our body to be breached are the heart and the brain. As the bacteria eat, they release ethereal gases, methane, ammonia, and hydrogen sulfide, which join beneath the skin. The air pushes up, The fluids push down, rending tissues asunder and creating new ways for our energy to be of service. Bacteria convert our blood's oxygen packets into particles that glow with a soft sea turtle green. Tiny emeralds waft up out of the world, announcing the commencement of well-timed orchestra of bounty and birth. When they drift past flowers, they tickle the antennae of iridescent greenbottle flies. The flies abandon feasts of nectar, and they alight upon us, their shiny bodies briefly holding our image as they lay their eggs. Within hours, hundreds of thousands of tiny larvae hatch and race to absorb nutrients. They are gluttons, so eager to eat without interruption that they breathe out of their anuses. Flies and wasps lay eggs that hatch into predatory maggots that feed on the greenbottle maggots. So do hister beetles, which creep out from underneath the corpse at night. So do skin beetles, mites, ants, and spiders. Birds and foxes, raccoons and snakes, frogs and lizards and turtles and salamanders, all eating the maggots that ate us. Our energy has been multiplied like biblical loaves into a bounty. Carrion beetles arrive laden with mites, P. necrophori, that feed on the greenbottle eggs, which give the carrion beetle parents a maggot-free space to raise their young. When our bodily fluids touch the soil, they awaken the bacteria, C. botulinum and B. anthracis, which migrate up into the remains. If the drifting green sulfhemoglobin announce the beginning of the banquet, these two, which are responsible for the toxins botulinum and anthrax, toll a bell of closure mediated by tolerance. As the toxic bacteria spoil the meat, crows hurry to eat before decomposition goes too far, while fly species from the family Sarcophagi will wait until the meat is so rotten that they can safely lay their eggs without worrying about predators. The only animal that ignores this clock entirely is the mighty vulture, a symbol of hardiness and perseverance. Its bald head allows it to stick its beak into a corpse without getting feathers matted by infection-causing bacteria. The vulture urinates a strong acid down its own legs, purifying them by killing pathogens with a chemical fire. And its stomach is full of a gastric juice, more powerful than battery acid, strong enough to break down bones, nails, and the toxic bacteria. Finally, the frantic pace and competitive battles fade, and the place of our passing quiets. Peaceful mice and voles visit, chewing our bones in order to get a dose of calcium. Hushed, tinnied moths flutter down delicately to lay eggs. Their caterpillars will eat our hair and our nails. And some of the basic elements that were locked up inside us filter down to sanctify a sacred, rich loam. The grass grows thicker and greener, creating a dense patch of foliage that marks our passing. We are here, and yet we are everywhere, carried into the forests, the earth, the sky, the sea. After a lifetime of disrupting Earth's natural cycles, we have paid a debt. We are free of responsibility. We are engaged in absolution. Every measurable bit of our life force has gone toward restoration. According to science, this is the story of our death, but no one is telling it. So that's tonight's reading, ladies and gentlemen. That's tonight's reading. I highly recommend anything by Matthew Hongoltz-Hetling, whether it be The Ghost Lab, A Libertarian Walks Into a Bear, or If It Sounds Like a Quack. So that was Benchley Night tonight. What else should we read next week? I'll be down in Tennessee, but after that, I'll probably be back I don't know. Sometime soon there'll be another Benchley night. Let me know what we should read. There'll always be a Benchley. Have a great week, ladies and gentlemen. Take good care. Don't let the bastards get you down. Bye-bye.